Well, how's it going, everybody? Hopefully you are doing well. Thank you so much for stopping by. And John O'Canute. Now, here's an interesting problem. I updated the vMix 28, which we will maybe talk a little bit about today, but probably more in the future. And my automation stuff is broken. So that's fun. I can fix that. It's probably just the inputs are now different than what I've put them in Companion, but that's a bummer. So when I press the button, the commands inside of vMix don't work anymore, and I noticed that when I started the pre-show. But okay, it says I'm quiet. Let's see if that makes any difference. Let me also listen to myself here. Half volume, I feel like I'm pretty good, but we shall see. Let me see if I change the volume here. Give me 1 second while I wait for YouTube to catch up to the actual show. Okay. Yeah, I thought actually I was going to be too loud, and so I turned down the preamp because sometimes I use this microphone for doing other recordings, vocal stuff, and so I have to disconnect it. But I think what I'll do in the future is just run it into a different. I'll just run that connection into a different input and not mess with this one, so that I can just replace the microphone and it'll be the same. So let me know how that goes. The music is always louder. It should always be louder. It always comes across super loud. But yeah, Randy says that he is first comment. Not even in theory. You were first comment overall, at least here in vMix Social. What's going on, Angus? Good to see you. And yes, Randy beat you for sure. The weather out in Alberta says we're not too awful. We had some snow yesterday, but we've been hovering around freezing, which is definitely warm for January, but it's supposed to get cold again, though. Boo. Randy, who I believe is in Winnipeg, says we're a bit colder, -11. It's up and down, but overall it's warm enough. It's making a great mess. Very foggy. And then John, you're really quiet. Randy says, "Oops, my volume was down." Excellent. Okay, I'm glad that it wasn't. I'm glad that it wasn't me. And your mic level, music was good. Mic level is not. Yeah, the music is usually louder. I can adjust that too. I really should, just because I'd rather the music be close to what the volume will be on the microphone, right? So, all right. Today there is a couple of things I want to touch on, but something before we kind of get started that I saw come out, and I'm sure that many of you saw, is that BirdDog has announced their new keyboard, which is a very interesting thing. I know that they've been working on this for a long time. They were talking about keyboard ideas almost a year and a half ago, maybe even longer, because we were looking at multiple keyboards that other manufacturers had made and kind of thinking, oh, that's a nice feature, or that feature is really dumb, or whatever. So we had been looking at new keyboard ideas before I ever left, which is over a year now. I left in the middle of January of last year, and so now I am removed a whole year from BirdDog, which seems a little bit like surreal because it doesn't feel like I've been gone that long. But hey, I have been, and that's the reality of things. And of course, I live in a different world now. I live in a different part of town. So, and by town I mean part of the country. So things have changed for me dramatically, and things are moving along over at BirdDog. It's been a whole year since I've worked for them. So the keyboard was announced, and the feature set looks good. I haven't done a deep dive into it. I've seen the promo commercial for it, which I might just throw up here on the video. We can maybe watch it together. And so if I were to put this in here and turn this on, let me see if I can show that real quick, and we can just kind of watch an ooh and ah together. So here we go. Oh, you know what? Let's do this instead. This one. Okay. Here we go. Hopefully you can hear it. It's just music, so okay. It's quite quiet, eh? There we go. What? Okay. Um. All right. So. All right. I don't. I don't. I don't know what to comment about that. um. Interesting. Okay. So the keyboard was announced, and there is much of the same features that were on the original keyboard are announced on this keyboard, as well as some additional things. If we were to look at basically the control surface, if we kind of get a good overview here, and we want to just peek at that real quick, I can even make that a little bigger. Auto white balance, bright up and down, auto white balance cycle, auto exposure cycle. There's some quick buttons for the cameras, 1 through 6, it looks like. And I assume the last one is press it and then press the number that you want and then hit enter and it will go to that camera. I had heard that the screen is not a touch screen, which is, neither here nor there. Everything doesn't need to be a touch screen. And then pan tilt, speed, zoom, RGB gain or RB gain, and then iris shutter gain. All of these options are now supposedly live feedback. While you turn them on the camera, it should show you that information on the screen, according to a live show that Dan and Anthony did yesterday. So that's cool. Great. Some other buttons that I'm kind of happy they got rid of a bunch of the ones that were on the original one because nobody used them. But menu, shift, and setup, I don't know why menu and setup are not the same, but anyways, menu back, there's an actual specific button for back, which is okay. BLC on, I don't quite know what that acronym's for. On and off, presets, recall, menu enter. There's an enter button. I assume that's autofocus with the near and far manual focus option. Those are buttons. Probably would have been better to make that a dial, but maybe the dial over IP has ended up not being a logical choice. So perhaps. And then a call button. So, okay. I feel like these buttons are a lot more purposeful for what BirdDog is doing. Same joystick as before, as it looks like. Maybe it's a little different manufacturer. I can't imagine this is a Bolin board, but maybe. I don't know. But no, I can't imagine that it is. But the parts are all very similar, so it's probably somebody in the same ballpark. So anyways, the keyboard was announced. It's got some exciting features. There's kind of a multi-viewer on the screen, which is nice, which also shows you the tally borders, so that'll be nice. You can actually know which camera is on, and so you're obviously always controlling the correct one. You'll have that tally information as to which one is live, and they've openly said that if they're hoping that it will work with lots of cameras, which is a dangerous statement because there are tens of thousands of cameras in the world, and there's only a certain set of commands that I'll say there are very few commands that work with all of them, as I recall. So there's not like a universal command function. Visca IP is pretty close to the universal language, but I don't think that the correct approach is to promise that it will work with most all of them. But when that was spoken about in the interview that I watched, it was... look, we're hoping that it will work with a lot of cameras out there, but obviously we're hyper focused on BirdDog cameras. Now, long ago when we launched our camera line, okay, I was there for that. When we launched our camera line, we said keyboard manufacturers, it's kind of on them to make them work with the cameras they want to control. It's they're up to It's up to them to make that happen. And then we came out with a keyboard and had to then swallow that pill because we found out that it's not quite as simple as all of that. It's everybody's got their own set of commands. And then if you have a manufacturer that makes their own cameras, then they kind of tweak some of those commands to, be specific for the camera. So then you got to get that list of commands. You got to integrate it with your keyboard, and the tunnel is endless. So I stopped hearing that phrase around near the end of my time with Bird Dog, and it was more of we were trying to get as many of them to work as possible. But if anybody veered from Sony VISC IP or VISC IP, they were that was on them for making it not work with all the keyboards. So that was a weird transition, like the fact that we made the keyboard to the point where it was so frustrating. People were saying, "Oh, I've got these, I've got these cameras from such and such manufacturer or from this no-name manufacturer. Why can't I control them?" And it didn't go great for our reputation back then. So I hope that there is a magic formula somewhere that this all changes for this new keyboard, because the last thing that is needed is another keyboard out there that doesn't talk very well with other manufacturers. Okay, because there are people that are mix and matching fleets. Quite frankly, I've worked with dozens of churches that have multiple types of cameras. Whoa, I just dropped a frame there. That has multiple types of cameras in their setup, and they need something to one controller to rule them all. Wow, I have a massive delay right now. At least that's the way it looks like in vMix. Sorry about that, everybody. I'm not too sure. Maybe I do know what's going on. Maybe not. So, good news. The keyboard has been launched, and that has been long. They've been working on that for a very long time. I can confirm that. And so I'm quite hopeful that this is a great success. One thing I wanted to scrub to here on this video was the back end of this. And yeah. So RS-232, okay. RS-422, okay. Quite frankly, in the IP camera world, I wish you had gotten rid of these, but whatever. And then your LAN PoE port, I'm assuming it's a 1 gig port. The old keyboard was a 10 gig port. So, but you're doing video and stuff, so I'm assuming that's a 1 gig port now. Again, massive assumptions. The marketing, like this animation, I'm not really entirely sure that accomplishes what it is that they were hoping for. This is cool. I'm really hopeful that this is as informative and easy to use as it appears. But yeah, if they've integrated that into that is a weird DNS. If they've integrated that into the web UI, that's great. This is a very strange. This is really cool. This is what the screen looks like. But I can't imagine this is what people are really going to be looking at when they're using these. Hey, we have a camera in on a podcast studio. We have a camera in on a guy, what looks like making music. We have a random lady walking past a camera in a business complex, and we have a camera over in some sort of medical institution. So I was like, I saw this and thought, like you have a studio, you could have done your own videos and really made them look nice, but have a bunch of different angles, or been pseudo interviewing somebody in the studio and done that. That would have been probably more in line with what your clients are doing. But, I understand we got to get this promo stuff out. So this cheat code thing, I don't understand the humor behind that. That's just me. That's fine. It's not a huge deal. So there it is. There is more on the way. And what is going on, GoWeb? Good to see you again. Hopefully you are doing well. Thanks for stopping by. Did anybody else watch the vMix show last night? I didn't, and I probably should have. I knew it was happening because Tom said something about it on his show. So, what's going on, Frink? The keyboard is pretty sweet. Okay. That's great. I'm excited. I hope it is. The handrest pad is really nice. Was that on the previous one? No, it wasn't. Oh, okay. The BLC is backlight compensation. Menu would be for the camera OSD. Okay, fair enough. The keypad acts as a one-touch preset recall. Okay, well, that's good. I believe you had to actually press preset in the last keyboard, so it's kind of nice that that's what those buttons are doing automatically. That's great. Setting and recalling presets is awful on the original keyboard, says Angus. I think they heard that. I think that's why the second one has the option that it does. I can do everything else on a Stream Deck Plus Companion except the ease of the joystick. Look, and I agree. We had a church install, and I had borrowed a keyboard to kind of show its functionality. We used it for a couple weeks, and then we went to a Stream Deck with, left, right, up, down, and it wasn't as good. Like, it obviously looks quite mechanical. There's no ramp or anything like that. So the joystick is really the key here, just to provide usability. So that's good. The multi-view is fantastic. I want one. I love it. There you go. Really reduces the amount of time and the clicks that it takes to switch over to cameras and presets. It also does OMVIF. Okay. Was that in high demand? It's fine if it was. I just didn't know that. The original keyboard is just a great joystick control. Best I've ever used, but the rest of the interface is a bit of an ouch. The joystick on the keyboard is a luxury in comparison. I have a Fumaco PTZ keyboard that is amazing with all of my AVCAN cameras. Will the BirdDog keyboard play nice with its P200s? I've heard it does. On Angus's show, Dan said that they do a lot of obviously they've really ramped up the control of each of their individual cameras, which is good. And Frink will confirm that, yes, it will. So Angus is definitely interested. The keyboard menu shown there is real, not a CGI. Well, that's good. Somewhere there's a hospital with a podcasting studio built in it. Yeah, it's quite a collection of camera angles. And now, live over to the operation after I'm done mixing these sweet beats. For the amount of people doing podcasts, it probably would have been a little bit strenuous to find, record your own footage. I get it. I understand. It's just an example. But if I'm going to be picky about a promo video, there were probably lots of opportunities there. So the next thing we do when BirdDog announces something is where can we buy it? Where can we buy it? So I'm just going to type in BirdDog keyboard over on B&H, and let's go ahead and see. Discontinued. Okay. Extended warranty for your keyboard, and that's it. That's the end of B&H. So it's not on the B&H website. Let's go on over to Broadfield, and who's their major U.S. distributor, and certainly that'll be listed here for sure. BirdDog keyboard. Okay, so the bundle is here. Oh boy. Okay, keyboard is here. Okay, out of stock. Out of stock. Why would it be out of stock? All right. So all right. Frink says that we're shipping in February. That's interesting. Um, if so, if it's not ready to ship, why is it announced? Right? Like just for real. In 2024 at NAB, Dan said they're changing the way they launch products, and they are not launching them until they're shipping from their distributors, not from China or not from the manufacturer, from their distributors. We're not talking about it until it's ready to be purchased. What is the deal? Maybe it's changed. Maybe he decided that wasn't the right course of action. And so we're going back to announcing products before they're ready. Is there announcement say is there an external announcement saying, hey, that doesn't really work for us as a business model, and so we're going to go back on that? Or at least is there something internally that's saying, hey, we're actually going to start launching them before they're ready, or before they're at or before they're with our distributors? Because like the public, now that I'm on the outside and I'm not listening to the internal emails and stuff going on, the public has heard the interview between Anthony and Dan from StreamTech back at NAB 2023 was, we've changed we're really excited about the way that we're changing going to market. We're not talking about it until they are ready for purchase. That's what was said. And that's what we heard. And that's what the customers heard. And so if it's not ready for purchase, I know it doesn't seem like a big deal perhaps, but it is 100% a big deal. And you can't even pre-order it from Broadfield, it looks like. Man, that's interesting. That's an interesting choice. Just because I would not have expected that at this point. I wouldn't have expected a new product to be announced without it being ready to go for me to purchase it. And so if it's available in February, then why not wait till February? Why announce it now? It's not even the end of Q1. Like it doesn't make any sense. If you're going to go in February, why not announce in February? I'm not upset at all about, I'm not as upset about it being not available. I'm confused as to why do it as a business stance if it's literally going to be available in a week or 2 weeks or 4 weeks. Why not just wait till then? It'll be that much closer to NAB, first of all, which would it would compress this news into people wanting to see it. Whereas if I know about it for a month, but I'm not able to order it or whatever, first of all, I'm definitely going to wait till NAB to try it. And second of all, it's going to be old news, I'm going to be hearing about other people's products coming for closer to NAB, and that will be front of mind. So it's curious. I'm definitely not asking Frank for you to give any of these explanations. I'm spitting out my confusion as to what maybe was the reason for. Timing is for ISE to be able to have eyes on it. Weird timing with the Lunar New Year. Oh yeah, you can actually make your buttons do nothing also if you want. Bird Dog announces the product first and then forgets to launch it. No, see, that's not fair anymore, because they've publicly come out and said we don't do that anymore. We're not doing that. We are announcing it when it's ready to ship. That's what we were said. And by the way, it was a successful launch when they launched the X1. When the X1 launched, it was ready to go. You could buy it on Broadfield's website. Now, when the X4 launched, they announced it and said it was ready to ship, but it wasn't ready for purchase for 6 weeks. For 6 whole weeks. Actually, it was 7, but we'll say 6 because it was the better part of the 7th week. But it was 6 weeks that it was not available for purchase from any U.S. or European distributor or retailers. And Dan did a live show, and I flat out said, hey, you're talking about this product. Where can I buy it? And they said it's available for purchase through all of our major retailers. I went to the websites after that show. I couldn't find it. Actually, I did it during the show. Couldn't find it. And then on this show, I said, hey, I can't find the X4 anywhere for purchase. when I inquired about it, they said, "Oh, there are U.S. tariffs, so the cameras are sitting in shipping bins on a boat in California, waiting to be offloaded, and then they'll be available. So whenever we clear the tariff thing, it'll be ready." Well, then that wasn't entirely the case because it doesn't take 6 weeks to clear tariffs, and second of all, it ended up not really being that reason after all, which I'll just leave it at that. But it took 6 weeks to get out. And so then I was like, seems like we were planning on it launching on a certain day and it being there available, but there was a hiccup in the shipping, but we still didn't stop ourselves from saying something on launch day. And the way that I would have probably recommended that is, now you wait, because you said you would. You said you would. And so the X4 took a month and a half to be purchasable. And I'm assuming these are done. Like they're on trucks going places. They're going to be ready by the time ISE rolls around, which is just in a couple of weeks. And that'd be great. But again, what people heard, and maybe it needs clarifying if that's not what was meant. What people heard was, when we talk about our new products, you can buy them that day. And we will ship you one that day. Not just pre-order, because that's what the X4 was. It was like, oh, they're available for purchase. Yes, I could have given B&H my money, but they would not have shipped them to me because they didn't have any. I inquired a fair bit. So that was hard for me to watch happen because I was really hopeful that wasn't going on. That this, like, saying one thing and not doing it. That's hard. It's hard to watch happen. I bought a P200 because of the 30 times zoom. I don't know what to replace it with. It's not easy to find 30 time PTZs with both SDI and NDI. Yeah, and the 200 is a stinking workhorse, man. That thing, I used one of those things for the one in my studio. I think I had that one for 5 years. It may have been the original one that I was given. I had it for a long time. I don't know what repairs I had done on it by the time I left, but it was a great little camera. And I knew it well enough to where I could get it balanced and I could get it working as I wanted. So that was always, I actually even preferred it. So I had almost every camera in that studio. I had a 100, a 200, a 120, and a P4K. Yeah, I had a P4K. Maybe even a P400 at some point. And I found the 200 to be kind of the easiest to get up and running and most consistent in terms of it powering it on and getting going. So I really felt like that was the one that I gravitated towards, and it was my number one camera for a long time. Now, I did switch to a P4K eventually just because I could, but the image quality was, you had a lot more control over the depth of the color on that camera, but it was, man, that 200, I use that thing all the time. Yes, my P200 is staying in service as long as I can. One-touch autofocus would probably be my function of choice. Well, it's a good thing you can do that. Yeah, so I'm hopeful. I do think that maybe some clarity over your go-to-market strategy might be warranted at this point, because it has been announced, but it's not for purchase, and that seems to be in conflict with what was announced earlier to the general public, to those of us who are, we'll say, paying attention, because I think words matter. Words matter, and how you behave after it also really matters. So, keyboard looks cool. Looks like it's going to be really neat. And what do they want? They want $1,300 for it. So that's basically what the other one was, right? Does that mean that the original keyboard stock has been liquidated? That would be great. So, cool. Okay. So, Yeah. Okay. So you may have also noticed, just a brief kind of commercial for next week, is I have at home I've used for years, by the way, a Reolink camera system around my house. I use a couple indoor cameras for my kids' rooms, just because that's what we use for baby monitors instead of buying individual proprietary baby monitors. And then I have some cameras outside the house, including a doorbell. And I think I'm done. I think I'm done because I've tried really hard to like these cameras, but there's a few functions on them that are really stupid, and I get annoyed. It wasn't really an issue when I wasn't really paying attention to them, but now that I live at home, and I mean I've always lived at home, but now that I work at home, I definitely feel like there are some key features about security cameras that are kind of basic that these ones lack, and I'll go over all of those next week in detail, but I'm a little bit annoyed with that. And so I think I'm kind of ready to move on and do something else this year and kind of retire my use of Reolink because I'm kind of bored with it. Does that hurt as a buyer, losing the initial zeal when buying a new product? Not as much as if the product doesn't perform. So like if all these knobs and buttons work just fine and they work across a fleet of cameras, not just BirdDog exclusive, then I think that's fine. Like I think it'll do really well initially, and then unfortunately they're up against companies like Skarhoy, and for a while there they had a Skarhoy BirdDog camera combo, and I saw some real benefit in just partnering with people that do this professionally. Like if Skarhoy really wanted to partner with a great camera, aligning yourself with BirdDog lenses or BirdDog sensors is a great idea, because I think the cameras are great images. I think they perform in their price bracket very well, and you could kind of hold hands in a professional relationship with a company like Skarhoy that does control only. It's like their thing. And, we had talked about that for a while. And then right around the time I was leaving, they came out with, they made some deal with Skarhoy to, you can buy a Skarhoy controller and cameras at some bundled deal. And I thought, man, that's really the way that this business relationship should work. Because if people are buying Skarhoy controllers, they want to say, hey, which cameras work really well with your controller? And out of Skarhoy's mouth, you want them to say, well, we have a deal with BirdDog, where you can get this or a reduced price because you're buying it through us or whatever. That would make sense, because then that company focuses on control, and that allows you to focus on building great cameras. But instead we got into something like, well, we need an ecosystem that it's all us, it's all ours, and it's all based on what we want. And so we had this keyboard that we had for years, the original Gen 1 Bolin keyboard. And, it had its ups and downs. The joystick was nice, but it definitely had its challenges in learning how to control not only our own cameras, but everyone else's. And to the point where we would get the command lists from camera manufacturers and send them over to engineering and say, hey, look at the commands that you're sending and see if there's a discrepancy here. I had a meeting with Skarhoy representatives in California, just over Zoom, and talked to them about, hey, we want to be sure that we're on the exact same page with you guys in terms of our control, because we want our cameras to work perfectly with yours, with your controllers. And they were all on board with that. I don't know how much further that conversation went between, just the companies, BirdDog and Skarhoy entirely. But yeah, this idea that, companies have a broad range of things that they specialize in is actually not really realistic, because when you do everything, you don't necessarily have the time and effort to focus on the thing that you do. And so, because you got to spread yourself out, you got to handle tickets and, problems between all of those varying products that you're expected to integrate with. And at the very least, the major IP cameras, most of the competitors to BirdDog, you're expected to work flawlessly with. And so if you create a control service, you are signing up for a level of homework that otherwise you may not want. But I'm excited that they came out with a new keyboard. I think it looks cool. I like the big screen on it. Have we done any drop testing on it? Because I'm gonna remind everybody here, support knows this, but people are not gentle with their technology. And the more premium it feels, so the more metal is in the product and not plastic, the more people feel like I can abuse this thing. And so the catch there is, if it feels plasticky, it feels cheap. And so people think it's like a throwaway device. But I don't think that's the plan that people are planning on going with. So if it feels like a premium product, people are very abusive on it. So is it modular? Can parts be replaced quickly, effectively, inexpensively, to where this is a resilient product that we can support for the next 5-10 years? Are you planning on buying one? I don't know if that was directed at me. I'm not, because I don't have any PTZ cameras, so that would be no use to me at this time. Interesting, I used Reolink cameras for a couple of years, and I have had no complaints. I even bought their NVR. So my complaint with Reolink is partially to do with their non-NVR cameras, their battery-level cameras, because I didn't in Michigan, I didn't have the luxury of running cable, and so I didn't have the NVR recording device, and all my cameras are wirelessly connected, which is actually that feature works pretty well. So I'll put that in there as one of my highlights. But my frustrations with the cameras have gotten to a level where I'm kind of done, and interested in knowing if there are other cameras out there that people go with or recommend. I don't know, but yeah, interesting stuff. So, all right, I'm going to close down B&H website. Broadfield has a spot holder for the keyboard when it launches. That's great. And yeah, we'll go from there. Okay, so today we are one of the topics that I just want to briefly talk about, which was kind of the title for today, was a bit of streaming theory, something that I've been tossing around in my brain, especially as I transition to my new job, talking about engaging content online, but how it is that you stage it to maximize the level of engagement. Because we've talked ad nauseum about things like confidence monitors. Instead of people, when you're gaming and you're watching screens, that's fine. But if you're hosting a show and you're actually talking to people or talking through the camera, essentially, you really want to be looking at the lens. And when I worked at my previous employ, we had a NDI, what was it called? Man, now I can't remember. Anyways, I had a teleprompter basically that what I would do is I would send the output from my vMix rig to the NDI teleprompter, and then I could just look at myself, make sure I was positioned correctly. I wasn't off frame or something like that. But also I could make sure that my microphone wasn't too obstructing. It was this microphone back then. And I could just focus on communicating whatever the message is that I was trying to portray. And a lot of it was tutorials and stuff. And so when I would switch to showing my screen, it would make sense for me to look at my screen. But when I was talking to customers or I was talking to frustrated clients about their products and how to support them, I wanted to create this sort of connection thing. And so we've talked a fair bit about using a confidence monitor and getting used to talking to yourself, because that I'm seeing what you're seeing, and I'm kind of seeing the same frame. Keep slouching in my seat, but I'm seeing the same frame. Whoa, why is this so far behind? That you're seeing, but it gives me a chance to kind of make minor adjustments as I need to, make sure my camera's in focus and all that sort of stuff. So I really like being able, I really like being able to see the output of the show while I'm talking to the lens, right? But it took a little bit of time to figure out how to do that and not feel awkward. And so I've worked with talented presenters, like preachers, lecturers, professors, doctors, all these people that have a wealth of knowledge. I've put them on camera, and they can't do this. They can't look at themselves and watch themselves talk and see past that because it's too awkward for them. For an example, the studio that I work at right now, we have the option on the monitor to put the program output up there. And so you can show them what the show looks like and, how it is that what framing they're at. But I find that when you put them up there and then you do a scene change where you're cutting between scenes, they think something's wrong or they think something's changing and they don't know they don't know how to like process it as to like, just let that go. Don't worry about what that is. And so we use ProPresenter 7 otherwise as our, showing our slides and whatever. And so we put up whatever, there's like a countdown and if there are words on slides, they'll show up there kind of as a confidence monitor for our musicians and whatever. But in general, we don't show anything on the confidence monitor, especially while people are speaking, unless they're reading scripture or something like that. We might put those up there. But beyond that, it's just blank. And we tell them, talk to the red light, which is above a camera. It's a Blackmagic 6K studio camera with the EF mount. And that, just when it's red, you talk there and then talk until you're done and let us handle the rest. So those tally lights change during the presentation or sermon or whatever it is that's going on. They change, but we just say when your cue to go is red on 1. And as soon as you see that, you do your thing until you're done. And then we'll handle the rest. And then the next cue for the next person starting is red on 1. And that makes it very simple for everybody to just remember, I'm looking at that camera, and when it goes red, I can start. So that is, part of the like, okay, how is it that I want my stream to be perceived? Do I want to be talking to people and be looking off camera? Because a lot of people do this. They watch vMix, for example, like I have vMix open. Well, if I'm watching my output there, I'm not looking at you at all. And I find this extremely unengaging. I find watching people talk slightly off or slightly off, I think is even worse, but off camera is bad. Slightly off camera, it's almost like when you see somebody and their script is right below the lens and their eyes are not meeting the lens and you can see their eyes doing the little like I'm reading something. It creates a disconnect. It would almost be better that they turn away and you do multiple camera angles and you let them not look at themselves than them not looking at the camera. And that's where a teleprompter comes in handy. Now, this rig that I have, it's a little... I think the monitor's like 10 inches or something like that. This little rig cost me less than $200 to set up and get going. Now, I've run this off of a secondary computer, but you don't have to. You can turn this into a third monitor, fourth monitor in my case. You can turn it into a fourth monitor and just open Studio Monitor and watch your vMix output, which is outputting NDI. Watch it in Studio Monitor. So for $200, you could have a second, third, fourth monitor. That is your confidence monitor, and then you can output your show. That, I think, is money well spent. I think it makes a big difference in the way that people watch your content and watch you interact with it. And I think if you go on YouTube or you go wherever you watch videos, if you go there and you watch engaging content, the two major categories that I think while listening to somebody talk in real time, the two major categories is watching them present something on stage with an audience, or if they don't have an audience, directly engaging with the audience through the camera. And it takes a long time to figure out how to look at the lens without something in front of it. And so I find that this is a whole lot easier talking to myself, essentially, but talking to my image that is displayed on a screen where my lens is then behind it. And that bridges that gap between me talking to you while you're watching on a screen and me talking to you but not really. Like I break the rule of I'm not really looking at you. I'm talking to, I don't know, my vMix feed or something like that. And I find that disconnect between those two spots night and day. I have a hard time watching somebody who's not presenting to YouTube or not presenting to the camera lens, and they're more like presenting to themselves. And so the way to kind of bridge that, if you can get over your own image being on the screen, is to put your output or even just your camera feed on a little confidence monitor in front. And like I said, less than $200. I had to buy the little computer screen, and I had to buy the actual glass for the confidence, but it just sits on a little tripod. And I've even gone as far as to mounting it to an arm, like a monitor arm for one of my many monitors that are in my office, but also resting it on a table if I have to. So that's actually how I did the P200 back at Bird Dog. In that studio, I just had a hood over a P200, and that camera sat inside of a teleprompter. And again, it kind of defeats the purpose of a PTZ, but I was really using the P200 because I liked the lens, not because I needed the camera to follow me around, but the color image quality was what I wanted. I had control of the image. I had control of my lighting, which makes a big difference, by the way. If you can control your lighting and control your key and your fill, that will all make a very big difference into how it looks. But then how none of that stuff really matters if people are not making a connection to the things, to the way that you're presenting, and then to the things that you're presenting. So streaming theory is, first and foremost, you got to be able to connect to your audience regardless of what you're talking about. And really good presenters, and I'm not claiming to be one, but really good presenters can make uninteresting things interesting, because it's interesting to watch them explain it and do it. And so I'm not saying that's me. This might be as dry as white bread, but all I'm saying is great presenters can make uninteresting things that you're not interested in make you interested in them. And that is part of it, is bridging that physical gap between I'm way over here in Middle Tennessee, and I make the connection by looking at you instead of presenting off screen. And you get that a lot. I think this is why services like Zoom and Skype and whatever suck, because when business meetings, when they present, they're rarely talking to the camera. Usually what's happening is they're using their onboard laptop camera and they're watching the Zoom that's happening on the screen, and the people are usually presented at the bottom of the Zoom call, and then the presenter is the one that Zoom highlights, or if they're sharing their screen, you don't the eye line, if your camera's on the top and you're looking at the bottom of your screen watching people talk, you're literally watching people with their eyes half shut because they're looking at you and you're looking at them. And so everyone's looking down, and it is so not engaging to present. You might have something that's very fascinating. Oh yeah, and by the way, this goes the opposite way. If you have something, or you are someone that presents a material that's extremely interesting, but this sucks, you're going to lose the majority of your audience. You might have hardcore fans, guys that have been with you for a very long time. Shout out to all 5 of you who have been with you for a very long time and who tune in because, you want to be here. That's cool. But when people are surfing around and looking for things on YouTube, if you're talking about something that would interest them, but your presentation style is hard to watch, I may listen to it. I probably won't. I'm not going to watch it. That's for sure. So you kind of add that to the mix of when I'm presenting something, or when I'm trying to portray some sort of important message or something that I'm passionate about. How is it that I want to communicate with the people at home? And so theory number 1 for me is make sure that the thing that is recording you is not a barrier to people engaging with something that you already have expert knowledge on, because that's the worst, when technology gets in the way. Oh man. And we had a good example of that last week when this camera packed up and gave me an error message, and then I spent 45 minutes trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Well, we figured out what was going on. It was live troubleshooting, which is something that I do on this channel sometimes, but it was live troubleshooting. Let's find out what is going on and see if we can sort that out. So, hey, give us a tour of your studio someday. Yes, and this is kind of a mock-up studio because this is not going to be my final resting place, but I could do that. That'd be all right. It evolves, you know. I like to put my meetings in a small window right close to my camera. Next best thing to a prompter. Agreed. So if you can get the whatever it is that you're looking at during those meetings as close as you can to the camera, that's a big difference. But a lot of people have these secondary cameras, right, that sit on top of your computer, and you can angle them, but your eye line is still never looking at the presenter. I was a part of a meeting for my daughter's education, and a bunch of teachers were in it, and the cameras were all low, so we could see right up the schnoz, and then also everyone was looking down. So you not only were you getting these up the nose shots, but then everyone's eyes were practically closed because they're all looking at whoever's presenting on their screens. And these professors were using 27-inch monitors, maybe 24, at their work, and then their cameras were mounted above it, and it wasn't the most engaging stuff. Now, I was very interested in what it was that they were talking about because it was about my daughter's education, but I also felt like the video element on this is lost. This could be a phone call. There's no reason for us to see each other's faces because we're not looking, you know, it's not like we're having a face-to-face conversation. Everyone's eyes are not looking at each other. So anyway, it was annoying. What's going on, Steven? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. So hard to get it is so hard to get folks to really understand this to the point that they actually embrace doing this better. Many folks would rather look away from the camera, and that kills me. I agree with you. You know, I actually think the world becomes a lot smaller if we utilize the technology that we had. I mean, I've worked for a company for 6 years because, well, one of the reasons was it was a really cool place to be, and we were doing stuff with cameras that I really wanted to be a part of. I mean, it was so cool, and I took the job that had the complaining attached to it because I wanted to be a part of, you know, what they were doing, and still do. I never really stopped wanting to be there. But yeah, people seem to miss, and you get this a lot where a lot of people were buying cameras and putting them in their churches or, you know, town halls or classrooms or whatever, and they would miss the engagement with the camera. There was a good example of this. We came across I was working at Bird Dog, of this place, which I didn't know was a thing until I stumbled across it because they sent us one of their cameras, called Cowboy Church. And Cowboy Church is literally what you think it is. It is a bunch of cowboys, usually in Texas, who are doing church like cowboys do church. And the preacher has his plaid button down and jeans on, and I didn't see any holstered weapons, but I did see a lot of cowboy hats. And there's even a spot outside to tie your horse down. So Cowboy Church is real, and people go there, and that's serving their community. Maybe they're all cowboys, you know, that's okay. Regardless of that, a great example of the ministry staff being aware that there were cameras in the audience, but that they were not the primary focus for the church community, was that after everything was done and they were kind of signing off, the minister stepped to the back of the stage and talked directly to Cam 1 and said, "Hey, we know you might be watching from home. We'd really like you to be a part of our community. Please find this invitation to come and be with us in person, and let me know. Come and find me and say, hey, I watched you online, and I thought I just want to come in and see how things were going." He said, "Just please join us sometime live. We'd love to meet you." But he looked directly at Tally 1 and spoke directly to the camera after service was over. And I thought, yes, that's the point, is that there are also people watching online. Like, I don't have an audience. My room is empty here. Well, it's full of stuff, but I don't have people in here. And so you're the people watching it. And so if I spent the whole time looking off screen and talking to you guys and not really looking at it, I think that loses a huge element of when you speak to others, they kind of expect you to look at them, even though I can't see you. They expect you to at least look at them because that creates a level of connection, but also their brains are able to tune in to what it is that you're trying to present. So when you're constantly looking away from them, that's why, like good presenters, they wander the stage and they look at their audience. They make a point and then they move on. Now, preachers, for those of you who are watching, people do not like it when you stare at them and then you make a point and then you say their name. Stop that. That is garbage tactics. Whoever told you to do that wants you to do poorly on stage. Do not say people's names in the middle of your lesson or sermon or presentation. Engage with them non-verbally, talk to them, explain the point that you want, and then move along. Stop calling out people's names inside your church service. That terrifies your audience, and quite frankly, nobody wants their name called from you on stage. Stop it. Stop it. There's one name in particular. You know who you are. Don't do that. Now that I live down here, I'm going to say it out loud. That was not cool. So, off that soapbox. The point is, though, is to engage with your audience, and so that they feel like the things that you're saying, you're having a conversation with them. Great presenters will engage with their audience, will know how to use their body language, will know how to use their eyes to make that connection. Well, when we remove the audience from that spot, and you find this a lot with preachers who preach directly to cameras and preachers that preach to their audiences, there's two different styles, and you can actually really see which one they prefer because they're really good at one and not very good at the other, or not as engaging as on the other. And there are very few people, although they do exist, who do well with both. So as you're thinking about how do I want my subject or my lesson or my presentation or my live stream to go, think very clearly about how it is that you want to engage with your audience. Are you going to engage locally with your audience? You're going to capture the essence of here's what it feels like in the room to be engaged with this speaker, or are you going to engage with your audience at home who have perhaps all of or the majority of their audience is watching live or after the fact? And so do you want them to see what happened live in the room and how dynamic the minister or speaker or lecturer was in the room at the time with the audience he had, or is he going to hone his skills to engage with an audience online? Now, I will say that if you have a live audience and you only engage with the online audience, it is a little bit weird. It's a little bit strange to watch people do that because we know that there's a live audience, but you're ignoring them. And so the key there is, I think the 80-20 rule here applies, where 80% of the time you're engaging with the majority of your audience, which is attending online. But if we know that there are people in the room, if you do a wide establishing shot, for example, if we know that there are people in the room, talk to them too. It's okay to do that. And, we have been finessing this where I am. I'm finessing this kind of back and forth, playing with only talk to the camera, only engage with the audience, 50-50, 40-60, 80-20. And I actually have found that 80-20, speaking to the camera, especially if the majority of your audience is at home, which is our case, speaking to the camera 80% of the time is probably the ideal. And then engaging with the audience, especially if you go to a wide shot, if there's a way that your presenter can know that. But if they all of a sudden turn to the audience, boom, switch to the establishing shot. Here are the people that he's engaging with, or she. Here are the people that my presenter is engaging with who are live in the audience. And then, boom, when they go back to cam one, put them back on live camera. And you can break this up a little bit, the monotony of this, by switching to a side angle where they continue to engage with cam one, and cam two kind of has a secondary profile look. And that way he's still talking to cam one, but here's a little variety. I have actually done a little more with that. We actually have 5 cameras that we cycle through, but one of them is our primary, cam one, and then 2 is a side angle that we go to the most often as a secondary camera. We have 2 establishing shots, one mid-back and one all the way back, showing the entire auditorium, which is not an auditorium. It's just it's a spot with 50 chairs in it, which has half of them full usually because there's not many people that meet at the actual soundstage. And then there is a camera on a slider. Cam 5 is a camera on a slider that's just running automatically behind the crowd so that it shows our keynote, who generally stands in the same spot on stage. He doesn't wander too much. Shows him on stage, and then it shows the audience. And what's really cool about a slider is you can set it up where your keynote is in the middle of the frame on both left and right side. And I can explain how to do that maybe on a different show. But you can set it up to where your keynote stays stationary. And then when you switch to Cam 5 and it's panning across, it actually shows the audience moving, but the keynote actually doesn't go anywhere, which is really cool. So it's a pretty cool effect. The word of warning, though, is if you have tall people sitting in your audience, be sure they don't sit right in front of the camera. That happened to me on Sunday. Whoops-a-daisy, but that's okay. That's going to happen. We just roll with it. We just, when it moved away from the back of their head, then we showed Cam 5, and then I timed it to the end of the run, and then we switched off. Another thing with a slider is usually it has an autopilot mode, and it goes from left to right, then right to left, then left to right to right to left. So you don't really want it to go from left to right, right to left. You don't want to show that transition. So timing it with the cadence of what's going on stage and the position of the camera, if it's automatic, if it's running in auto mode, the timing of that is a bit tricky to get right, because you don't really want that shot to stop and then start coming back the other way. You want it to, switch to it right when it's kind of like just started to go, and then switch off of it before it gets back. And that gives you some variety in movement. It creates a more interesting shot to look at. You also don't really want to go to that shot too terribly long, because it kind of gets a little like old quickly. So you just want to show it every so often. You sprinkle it in. My rule is once every 10 minutes, and I find that that's helpful to kind of keep it sporadic and not constant. Not, and here's Cam 5 again, and here's Cam 5 again, and look at this thing that we spent money on. Yeah, don't do that. Stay on Cam 1 the majority of the time. Sprinkle in your other cameras that you have. Even if you only have 2 cameras, use the other one sparingly, and it will make the dynamic of the of what it is that's being presented. It'll help it and not hinder it. Again, when technology gets in the way of what it is that you're trying to do, that is a huge, it doesn't matter what it is you're doing. If the technology's in the way, it's almost not worth doing. Okay. Anytime they say, sorry, we're having technical difficulties, we're going to, it's hard to watch. And again, last week is a great example of that. I was on my show, my camera died. I had to switch to a different camera. I had to switch to a webcam, which looks horrible. Like, it's so bad. Look at this shot. It's not even framed up on me. Look at that. There's my messy office, messy bonus room. It was rough. I'll admit it was rough. It was hard to watch. And, that's that rule in action, is if the technology gets in the way, it's hard to give your attention to something like that, and you end up listening to it at best and not watching and engaging with it on that level. The other piece of this theory that I want to talk about, though, and this actually, and I'll give you a real life example of this. The other piece of the theory is when you are live streaming, I feel like the emphasis is not on streaming. The emphasis is that you're live. This is happening now. I mean, you might be watching this after the fact, but this was streamed live. It's going over Starlink, through vMix, over Starlink. Hopefully that will change soon. Not that I don't like Starlink, by the way. The Starlink has been fine. Just the upload speeds are slow compared to what is offered with fiber gigabit internet, which is being installed on my road. So the emphasis of live streaming is really the live thing. It's the nervousness that you might feel knowing that this could all go belly up, that it could all get screwed up. Again, last week, great example, camera packed up mid-show. And so what do? You have to pivot. It's live. That's part of the reason you tune in. It's part of the reason why people come to the live show, is because it's happening in real time. And there's potential for great mess up, but there's also potential that it'll go off perfectly, and that makes it all the cooler that you're able to do that, and that it looked good, and that it was engaging, and that you enjoyed being there. All of those pieces are really something that drive the live stream concept. can have great cameras, you can have great microphone, you can have good lighting, you can do all that stuff. But why not just record a video about all this stuff and upload it, and then people can watch it later? Why do it live? Well, because part of it is engaging with you live, which is part of the reason why vMix Social is kind of a cool thing. Hey, is that an Ibanez sound gear? No, that is a Yamaha back there. I do have an Ibanez, though. I have an electric guitar. Where is it? I don't know where it is. It's over there. I'll get that out another day. I don't really play guitar. I play bass more than I play regular guitar because that's just the way my brain works. So part of it is that I can bring in those comments live. It's why I love vMix Social. It's one of the reasons I switched to vMix reluctantly, but then became an evangelist for it, is it integrates your social media, the live chat, into your show, and you can bring it in and show it on the screen and interact with your viewers in real time. And I think that's an important dynamic with live streaming. It's live. It's happening now. I'm doing this now, and I'm able to take in real time your feedback. Now, it gets much bigger, faster when you have a huge following. You know, you watch very popular streamers or people on Twitch, and the chat's just going. And so then they do like moderated chat, or people who pay to have their comments posted. And that's fine. That's a way to manage it, and it's a way for streamers to make money with what it is that they do. But there are different levels of this is live, this is serious. You know, things are going on right now, and I'm trying to engage with this sort of audience. And so one of the elements is to be able to do the live elements that bring the chat in and have this all kind of happening in real time. So live streaming, I mean, streaming is the function, but live is really that action word. And that's the thing that separates people feeling like they made a connection with whoever it is that's presenting to them, and people who feel like they've been given a sales pitch. Many of you know this, but I, in my heart of heart, have no interest in listening to sales pitches. I don't care. What I want to see is I want to see your product working in real time. I love Tom Sinclair for this reason alone. He's a great guy. Not for this only reason, but I think this is one of his great ideas with his Streaming Idiot show, is he does it in real time, and if it doesn't work, he tries to figure it out in real time, and he gives himself 40 minutes to figure it out. It's so good. Like, it's so good because that is who the customer is. The customer's also figuring it out in real time. And last week, when my camera packed up, I think it was Randy maybe said, I love this because this is exactly what I end up doing every time I have to go live, is troubleshooting something that's gone wrong. And that's the truth, is that you want to create a connection between your audience and you. And the best thing about that is to kind of be live and be the person you are in real life on the stream. So that's two things. The first is do it live, and if it fails miserably, it fails miserably. When I worked for a camera manufacturer, one of the shticks on my show was, I haven't tried this yet. Let's plug it in and try it out. And I think I made a lot of connections with people who are like, this guy's not trying to give me a sales pitch. This guy's trying to get it to work. So when my order shows up, I know what he did, and I can go back and watch this and say, oh, well, he needed to do a firmware update, or, oh, he had problems with the white balance not working, or, oh, this worked perfectly for him, or these are the steps that he did to get it integrated to vMix or Wirecast or whatever. I think that was one of the beautiful things about that show, is that it was real and it was live and it wasn't scripted and it wasn't a sales pitch. And I think that made some people nervous because it wasn't polished. It was more emphasis on the live and less on the stream. I was really excited when Dan announced that he was going to start doing more live streams. Now, the first one, they had some technical issues getting it out to the public, and I haven't seen another one that he's hosted since. They said, oh, we figured it out, so we're ready to do the next one. but I haven't seen one since. And I know that they've kind of invited or hired or something with Anthony, who does a great job on live streams. His thing is that he tries a product and gives his honest opinion. I mean, we tune in to Anthony to hear his honest opinion about stuff. So the fact that he's wearing Bird Dog swag and he's doing more salesy stuff and less his honest opinion about it, I don't know if that falls in line with why he's so good at what he does. Like a company like StreamTech, I think, where people would ship him stuff and then he'd try it out and say, this is great, this is not so great, and kind of fumble through it. That's why I was tuning in. That's why I really like him, because he was doing something that's similar to what it was that I was doing at Bird Dog. But anyway, the fact that they've brought him on, it's fine. He's done several interviews with CJ. He's done an interview with CJ. He's done an interview with Dan. He's done an interview with one other, right? It's only like the third show. But it feels different than his show. It feels more sales pitchy because he's got the slide deck and they revealed the new product, and it's just not his show. It's something different. And it doesn't feel live then, because if you have somebody on and you've been given the slide deck and you kind of have an idea as to what questions you want to ask, it doesn't feel like it's flowing like a live show. You're not throwing curveballs at somebody, certainly not someone who, if you're wearing his company logo, you're probably not going to throw a curveball at him and say, hey, why isn't it a touchscreen? You're probably going to say, is it a touchscreen? And they say, no, it's not. And then it's like, okay, moving on. That really happened. And it's fine. It's just like it takes away from the live piece and it emphasis on the stream part. And I actually think the importance of live streaming is the live element, is the fact that we're live and not the fact that we're streaming. So with that emphasis of it being a live stream, one of the things that I made a change at when I moved down to Tennessee with the stream that we're running down here was everything needs to be on screen, and we need to do videos as much as possible, almost to a default. We need to have video, whether it's a live camera or whether it's a pre-manufactured video. I want an emphasis on video. I don't want any pictures on the screen. And if we have to show a picture, we show it for less than 5 seconds. My rule is if there's a picture on the screen, it's only on the screen for 5 seconds or less. Otherwise, it needs to be a video, a live camera, a video transition, a video, like a pre-manufactured video, something that someone's made, but it's video. It's not pictures. And we even go as far as to say, if you're going to send us a video and it's going to have a picture in it, you're going to put a picture up. First, you have to have the exclusive rights to show it because copyright and everything. But second of all, it shouldn't be on the screen for more than 5 seconds. And I've had some pushback for that because, that's not really the way I had envisioned it. It's like, great. But our policy is I want to see the person presenting. I don't want to see just a static image and you talking over it, voiceovers. Because what happens when that happens and you have nothing live happening on your screen and it's just a static screen, people lose interest. They start watching with their ears and their eyes go somewhere else. It's just the way it is. It's just the way people are. And we're so used to tuning into YouTube and listening with our ears, and many of you might be doing that right now. We listen with our ears, but we don't watch with our eyes. And the question that I had with my crew in the live stream is, what makes people want to watch? Well, first and foremost, because we are doing ministry stuff, it's the people. The people are the important thing when it comes to ministry, because that's who it is that are involved in moving the needle in terms of the church world. It's not the pretty images. It's not the pretty pictures. It's not even the icons that people use in there. Now, we don't have icons necessarily, but there are Christian religions that use icons. But if you just put that on the screen, and this is in particular about using slides, by the way, if you are using pictures on your slides people are going to read your text and look away. And so why even bother? Especially if you're going to read them the slide. So I know of a congregation back in Ontario. Minister is quite engaging, but has a tendency to read the text that he puts on the slide, and he puts 6 points up there and he reads them all. A communications teacher taught me this a long time ago. Don't insult your audience's intelligence by reading them the slide that you're showing them. They can read. Instead, use that as a high point indicator as to here's where we're going. Here's the overall concept of the thing that I'm about to tell you about, and then tell them about that thing, but don't type it out on your screen. That is a waste of time. People don't engage. They'll look at the picture. They'll look at the text. They'll read it. They'll read ahead of you. Okay, they'll read the whole thing before you get through it, and then they won't engage with that ever again. They won't. I've seen it. I don't need to look at it again. So when it comes to creating engaging content where people actually want to tune in and watch, the key is everything in a live stream should be live. No static screens, no just like boring like logos or whatever where you're down in the corner. None of that stuff. You need to focus on filling the screen with things that are happening on screen. And so put your live camera up. That's probably first and foremost. Use that as your number one go-to, which is the way that I have it formatted here, is I have it as a go-to shot. But then we start thinking about the other elements of our stream as well. What else should be live that isn't live? Well, as you recall, I used to have a whole bunch of, let's see if we can find, where did that go? Oh, okay. I used to have my intro and outro. Used to be a picture of me, and it would have a countdown going for the intro. I don't know even if I have. Do I still have? Let me see if I still have those. Yeah. So the intro used to be like a I don't know, it was like a cloud or something, right? Kind of like it said the stream was starting, and it was just a video on loop that said, it's gonna start soon. And initially it wasn't. It was just like hey, we're starting. It had a live countdown, so you knew it was live, and just kind of a static picture. Then I thought it should be a video, and so I changed it to this like, I don't know, like color dye going into water type of thing, and I just found a free royalty-free video that I could do that with, and I put my information over top, added the countdown to it, and that was fine. It was moving, so when you logged in, when I was getting ready to go, you could tell, okay, the stream is running because there's a video and the countdown, and I'm at the right place, and so the music is going and whatever. That is also the case. I kind of played around with a bunch of those items, but that's also the case with my Be Right Back. If I got to step away, the doorbell rings or something like that, I have a Be Right Back screen, which looks like this. And it's basically just movement, but it's saying, hey, I need to be off camera for a second, and I will be right back. And so it's this constant loop that just basically says be right back. That's fine. Although I would say that's only one step ahead of engaging content when it comes to, there is a motion background. So churches did this forever back in the late 90s, early 2000s, where they would use something called jump backs. They put their lyrics up on the screen, and then they put a video that's kind of faded, and it's doing something, it's clearly doing something, hopefully not super distracting. Something like this, where it would, you'd have your lyrics over something like this, and it would kind of go slowly, and if you were really paying attention, you would see it moving. But it was far more engaging than just a still picture. But that's pretty much all it was. And then big churches got the idea that like people actually really want to see what's happening on stage, especially if you have a large auditorium and it may be kind of hard to see the facial expressions of whoever it is that's up there. Maybe we should bring a camera in and get nice and close. And so even though you have a crappy seat or you choose to sit in the back, like much of the Western Christian world, we can still see your face clearly. And so if you're telling an animated story, they're in nice and tight on you, and we can see them because we put that up on the screens. Now, from an engagement standpoint, it's actually quite a big leap forward because you're engaging. Public speaking is an art form. We've all heard really bad public speakers, and we've all probably come across one person in our lives that has been really good at creating an engaging content, an engaging presentation that engages you fully because they're kind of more animated, or they're able to use the whole stage, or they know how to communicate with an audience through their points. They don't have to manufacture anything on stage. They're engaged with their audience at a real level. And that is what we're trying to accomplish here, especially when we get further and further and further away from our audiences. So I live in Middle Tennessee. Most all of you do not. And I'm trying to connect with you wherever you are. And so I've got a mid shot, not even mid. It's a little tighter than that. It's almost like a bust shot, really, of me talking and communicating whatever it is that I want to share with you. And that brings you in close. You're not up at my grill, and it's all, you can't see up my nose like a Zoom meeting, but you are definitely at a comfortable distance, and you probably have your phone propped up, or I'm on a secondary screen or something like that, where you're kind of at a distance, and it's not in my personal space, in your personal space, but at a place where maybe we would engage. If we were talking, we would talk at this kind of distance. So that move to IMAG in a lot of places where we're going to have a big conference, and we want to put the speaker up on the screen so that even those who are in the nosebleeds can see what's happening on stage. That goes for conferences, churches, concerts, also like schools are even doing it now, large auditoriums, putting the speaker up on the screen behind them. And it takes a level of confidence for people to utilize the stage and be engaging, but then also be comfortable on camera. So that is part of that element, that idea of everything should be live on a live stream. There should be nothing that's static. There should be nothing that is not happening now. And so when you go live, but it's pre-recorded, you're kind of purely only using the live stream to have the live label, but it's not live. And so people see through that. I think they understand that this isn't live, this is pre-manufactured. And just as bad is somebody that goes live and gives a speech about that they have prepared, and there's nothing real or live about them. It's very sales pitchy. And I think that's a violation of the whole point of going live. It's like there may be a time where you need to do a press conference and you need to read from a sheet because the lawyers are involved. But have you ever watched, like right now, there's a lot of confirmation hearings in whatever side of the political world you're on. They're going on right now. Just look it up on YouTube. The live person is the one being interviewed, but all the politicians have spent their time manufacturing their speeches, their grandstanding, again, on both sides of the aisle. They're all manufacturing this person is best known for their work and the yada, 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 and I applaud them for that. It's like, oh, man, this is so boring. It's not engaging. You're not talking to the candidate. And then on the other side, it's like, well, this person has track record of doing these terrible things, and let me just quote you from. It's like, stop. The point is to engage with the person so that we as the citizens of the United States, which I am not. I'm not a citizen. I'm a legal resident. The citizens of the United States can see this person as best as who they are, as best as we can in this terrible format, in this like what looks like a judicial court system. The point is to see people interact, and instead we get manufactured, and it turns people off of it. At the very least, it turns people off from engaging in it, and at the worst, it galvanizes people and makes them not interested in hearing the conversation. And it's brutal. It's brutal to watch. Like, it's just so, it's not boring. It's brutal. and there's a difference in that. So I took this idea, and you may have noticed the past couple of live streams, I've taken this idea to another level, and I've created a starting screen and an ending screen, which are live. And so not only can you see what's going on here live in the background, you can see that I'm here, you can see what I'm wearing, kind of, okay, black t-shirt, my kid's New Hope hat. I've got, you can see who I am. I've blurred it a little bit so you can't see all the detail like you can when I'm live. But when you tune into the show before and after, you can see me sitting here. You see me come back with my non-sponsor Ember mug of coffee. Keep your coffee hot and your creamer curdled. Speaking of curdled, you can see when I come back with my cup of coffee and put it on the table, and when I sit down and I adjust things. Now, I choose to have my lights off during that open segment, so it looks like this. I'm kind of in the shadows, and you can see me moving around. But in the automation, I have it where I click the button, and the lights come on, and it fades over to cam 1, and it's really kind of a cool sequence. But you can see me before I go live, just like you would if you were in an auditorium and I was, for some strange reason, the keynote, and I was going to get up on stage. The lights would be down, the back lights would be on, maybe a screen or something like that. But as I walk out, the lights would come up. You would see me coming to the microphone. You would see me about to present. It's the same idea, that anticipation of the show is about to start. And I also made one for the ending screen, just saying the show has ended, but I'm sitting here working usually. And I let it go for a couple of songs or 5 minutes or whatever. And then I fade to black and I end the music and we're done. So it gives people a chance to join the show, have a little anticipation. I can see John, he's on the stream, but then also we're getting excited to, hang out and be together for a little while, an hour and a half now. And then when the show ends, there's a live element as well. And it feeds into this theory that I have that when you are live streaming, it should be live. You shouldn't really be going to a static screen, which is what I was doing. Remember this one, everybody? So I was going to this one, and that screen, I didn't want to go to it thinking tell people I was done. But that static screen is a shot from me in the production booth where we're at right now, and it's also informative. It says be sure to subscribe, but the show has ended. And it just loses the engagement element. I like that shot. I like that ending screen. But I think it's more emphasis on the stream and not on the live element. And so I'm not going to use it anymore. I'm going to use my new one that I've had. And I think it makes for more engaging content. It looks intentional. It looks like it's completed, right? If it says the stream has ended, but I'm there, you might be inclined to say, have a great week, John, because I'm still at my computer. It's evident that I'm still at the studio. And so it brings that live element kind of around full circle, which I really like. Oh, and I just dropped a frame. Hopefully not to YouTube, but definitely on my NDI network. That was weird. Angus, all right, I'll get off. I'll kind of finish up the chat here, and then I'm willing to, if anybody has any thoughts on what it is that I've just kind of gone through, happy to talk. The vMix guys did a live training video recording last night. They both got the giggles, and it was great. Hey, John, I'd love to hear a similar talk like this, but regarding the IMAG theory. There would probably be a bunch of crossover material with this talk. So that, and it is kind of like what I alluded to. Maybe that was sent before I said any of that, 10 minutes ago. So yeah, the IMAG theory. So that is the idea, right? And I'm happy to talk again about it at some point, but we have found over the ages, especially those of us who have done a lot of live shows and trying to engage their audience with whatever it is that we put on the screen, that, well, first of all, what goes up on the screen should definitely be processed by somebody who has an eye for it. And generally that means you shouldn't leave it up to your well-learned doctors / ministers / teachers / whatever, people that don't have any interest in making engaging content for screens. This conversation should not be up to them to figure out. And part of the reason why is twofold. First of all, they're usually not very good at it. But even if they are, you don't really want them spending the time figuring and learning all of that when they should be focused on the thing that they are really good at. So if you have a doctor, professor, something like that, you don't really want that PhD focusing on making engaging slides. Give that to somebody in a marketing world. Give that to somebody in the video world who knows this is how we're going to do this. This is how we're going to portray this information. Quite honestly, the best thing I can tell you at this stage is have a live video camera that's a mid or a tighter shot and have whatever words they want come up in a very plain text with white letters, black background, and that way it's not distracting at all. The other rule that I have with words on a screen is to make them as few as possible. So let's just take a church scenario, and we have somebody leading worship, and they are needing their lyrics. Well, the way to do that, me personally, is to eliminate the need for pictures, for jump backs, for all that stuff, and just to use a very plain, simplified background so that the words do not become a distraction, so that the thing that you're showing on screen does not become a distraction. Here's an example of what we do at Safe Harbor. Now, the words go behind my camera here, but that's my lower thirds. Max 3 lines usually, unless it's one of those odd scriptures that go on and on and on. But for songs, 2 lines is what I stick with. I put them at the bottom, and rarely do they interfere with what is being shown on screen. The goal here is to make the technology not the distraction. I've seen a lot of people that do picture-in-picture, kind of like what I'm doing right now, on their church services, and they have their camera in the picture down here, and then they have this big, beautiful slide, the big picture of like a lion or something, and they've got these words that are, I don't know, some weird font that's like cursive or whatever, and that's what they use for their lyric stuff. Stop. You're making it about that. You're making the thing that people are looking at. You're forcing them to look at. You're making it about that thing and not about what's happening here. And in church work in particular, I'm all about showing the people being involved and letting the lyrics or the other stuff be secondary. And so in this instance, we're showing, we're playing a song and singing along, but I want the words to basically be secondary to what it is that's happening on screen. So I can let this run for a minute, show you a couple. This is Camp 2. But we see Patrick mostly playing. That's the goal, is to show what he's doing as he's leading the congregation through this song. And then the words are secondary and very, very see-through. Matter of fact, there's space between the lines, between the words that show that. So that's kind of what I'm getting at here is, I want it to not be a distraction. I want the focus to be on the people and not on the words themselves. I want them to be available so people know what the words are, but I don't want necessarily to force that on everybody. So that's kind of where I land on that. But then when we go to IMAG, we start talking about the IMAG conversation, that becomes, there are pitfalls there. Like if you have latency, you're going to have an issue there because it's going to be jarring to watch. But if you want the people in the nosebleed section to be engaged with what the person is saying, having SDI, IMAG from camera back to, control room up to the screens is a great way to bring people in close so that the technology helps. Your cameramen also then have to be the best. They have to be some of the best that you can find, because if you have up close tight shots and your cameramen are not good at keeping them in frame, also going to be a distraction. It's going to be, I can give you an example of that too, but it's going to be hard to watch. JumpX is a dirty word. I bought a Digital Juice lifetime membership and then they closed down 2 weeks later. Oh man, Digital Juice. I remember that name long ago. Hey, one trick for use of a single camera press conference stream is to toss a red light on top of the camera. We usually end up with our stream camera right in the middle of a group of news cameras. Right on. Yeah, if you put a red light on your camera, then their eyes tend to go to the red light, right? That's so cool. That's a great idea. See, and if you didn't come to my stream, you would not have gotten that great piece of advice all the way from central Canada. We do 3 lines when we're working with live captions. Yep, 3 it seems to be okay. 2 is, I prefer 2 because less is more in my mind. I get more of the picture, even if it's just the guitar or even if it's just the rest of the picture on the camera. But 2, 3 seems to be all right. 4 is a bit much, and then if you get a whole stack of words, then it becomes a distraction. So, hey, when we have captions up on iMag, it dramatically increases how many people watch the screens. I agree. We've toyed around with this a little bit, and I've been training my number 1 ProPresenter operator to use the Bible module when we have, that's Patrick that was on the screen. When Patrick is preaching, she's getting really good at the shorthand, finding the scriptures real quick. So she'll, we've been in Hebrews this past year, and she'll just type in like Hebrews 8 and she'll hit enter. And when he's like, all right, starting in 14, she can just go to the one that says 14, boop, hit 14 and up and running. And those then go to me at the video switching level. And then when he starts reading, boom, I put them up on the screen. She's getting really fast at it. We've taken a little bit of time to practice with it, and I'm not expecting it to be perfect the first 6 months. But if she's pretty much there now. So that's been really cool to have that option as to, hey, when he speaks, we can put the words up on the screen. And that is good for a couple of reasons. First of all, not everybody knows how to quickly jump around in Scripture and find, books like that. But also so it gives that accessibility for people who are not as familiar with the Scripture. But also there's a lot of people that don't bring their Bibles and stuff too, so it makes it available for them. It's like, well, that's just teaching them not to bring it. It's like, would you rather them have it or not have it? Like, that's really where I get there from. I'd rather them be engaged with it at some level. But you're right. People tend to then watch the screens when lyrics and that sort of thing go up on the screen. They're far more engaged with what's happening on the screen. I made a rule where we only show. So at the soundstage, we used to have basically 2 different services. We'd have the one that happened at the soundstage, and they'd get these slides and pictures and whatever that went up, and then we would pipe out something different to the stream. And I said, no, we're just going to do one stream from here on in, and what we show on YouTube is what's going to be shown inside the soundstage. We're going to have these monitors that face the audience, and they're going to get to see what we make and what we're putting up, so everybody gets the same thing. Now, the advantage to coming all the way to Middle Tennessee to be at the soundstage is you get to see it done live. Like, you get to see the actual production. And so that's a pretty cool selling point is, no, if you want to see us do it, we will actually record it here in the studio, and that will go out to YouTube Live. And I think that that's one of the big things is making the live thing better, because traditionally, worship services are not scripted. Preachers might have manuscripts, I guess, but they're not scripted. They happen live. They happen in real time, and anything can happen. And so what a better thing to do than to show that on a live stream that actually happens. So we want to make it where everybody gets the same product, and we started putting the final program on the screens in the auditorium. And then we could put the lyrics up, or we could put the scriptures up with lower thirds, and everybody gets the same thing. So I do like that a lot. That being said, I'm not really doing much music, mostly large meetings. So yes, whatever it is that you need text for, right? This is good stuff that if, for example, if you were doing large meetings or corporate stuff, where if you're doing like local government things and they wanted to pull up an ordinance, or they want to talk about a new law, or they want to talk about an existing one, you could have that preloaded, the text for it preloaded, and make it available so when people are watching it at home or online, they can see what it is that you're talking about. And so you could even load that into a ticker and have the ordinance scrolling by saying, this is the ordinance, and then showing the actual verbiage so people can engage and understand what the wording is of the law that is being talked about. I think that that's a great way. Otherwise, you've got to go to a different website, Google it, you got to look it up, you got to find your township, you got to do all this stuff. No, make the relevant data available for people so that they can stay engaged in your live stream. I think that that's a big advantage to being live, is we can pull up YouTube videos, or I can pull up interviews, or we can watch the bird dog announcement, or all that stuff. You can do it all live and get real-time feedback. So that's the point. I think we miss it sometimes when we pretend like it's about the stream and not about the live. It's about being live. It's not about the function of streaming. Everyone's streaming. But when you forget that it's really about being live, about showing people what's happening live right now, that's what's important, is that people are engaging with things in a live way, and I'm responding to your questions in real time. I'm bringing up people's comments and showing them live on the screen. When GoWeb submits something, I can bring it in. And by the way, if you want to engage with me live, you can do that over on YouTube or Twitch, which is the only two places I'm streaming right now. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the John O'Canute Facebook page, because I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers so I can send it over there too. Now, I don't know if Facebook allows you to send the live chat back. I don't think so. But if you want to engage with me live on the stream, we do that here on YouTube and Twitch. Okay, it has been going on for quite a while now, and I should probably sign off and get to what it is that I need to get to. The one minor personal detail is that I went to the dentist yesterday for the first time in Tennessee, which has been a little while since I've been to the dentist, and things are okay. I have a broken crown, actually, that fell right out of my mouth back, let's say, later last year, and I haven't done anything about it. Well, I went in, they didn't really seem too concerned about it. So, okay, cool. They're going to figure out how much it's going to cost to get it replaced, but that was fun and exciting for me to go to. Now, shout out to the dental hygienist over there in Fairview. One of the nicest dental hygienists in terms of how she functioned, because I've had some doozies in Auburn Hills. So really happy about that and feeling good about that dentist. We will see how the next few visits go, because I'm going to have some work done. But regardless, things are okay. I think I'm supposed to be in fairly good health, and so good news there. But yeah, that's what I was up to yesterday. So I've got some work to catch up to today. Oh, and I dropped 2 trees. I was going to show you that. So yesterday I had a friend of mine, actually a coworker of mine, who works with me. He showed up, and we were able to drop a couple of trees that were in my front yard. And so if I were to open this here, I don't like that this thing auto plays. Let me show you this real quick. So this is my buddy Dave, and him and I work together. And I'm in the truck and start driving forward, and away she goes. So you might be wondering, why I'm dropping these trees. One of them was dead. This one was the second. No, this is the first one. So that's the dead one, dead as a doornail. And so we had to get rid of it because we're having high winds and rain and stuff. We're coming on the beginning of tornado season around here, so wanted to get that taken care of. And I don't want that falling on my house. It's a lot of lumber, so we had to drop that real quick and make sure that doesn't give me any problems. And then the one behind it there with all the sticker growth on behind it also came down because that one is kind of dead on top and growing out the trunk. And I thought, well, we'll take that out. I'll get somebody to grind these two stumps down and then have a nice front area in the lawn. So that's the front of my house and had a little work to do, but also means that I didn't get all the work done yesterday for my current job that I needed to. So good times. Angus says, hey, have a great day. And also bonk, which is, I'm assuming is in regards to the tree falling down. Yeah, good stuff. Really, really happy that that's done. But yesterday was a full day between dentists and dropping trees and then hauling those trees to the backyard because we're going to use them in an upcoming project. So good times. So I hope you're doing well. I hope the streaming theory was somewhat interesting to at least listen to. That's the way my brain's working, at least, is that I think that those things are important when you're really thinking about creating engaging content for your live stream. It's really important to be live, to be authentic, to be who you are in real life on your stream, because people, they don't want to engage with somebody who's fake. And then they meet you in real life and realize this guy is not like what I thought he was. Want you all to be the person that you are on your stream. And I think that creates a deeper connection than trying to do something that's manufactured. If I were to give you a piece of advice in regards to that, do everything you can not to be sales pitchy, because it feels distant from it feels distant. It doesn't feel authentic. It feels like that's not really, it's not really you. It sounds like you have ulterior motives, like you're trying to sell me something. And really, I'd like you to be authentically enthusiastic and surprised or engaging or whatever. Be yourself and let me see you be really fun and exciting about having those emotions in real time, instead of just saying, I'm really excited about this. That doesn't feel the same as that coming out in conversation about it. And I think a great example of this, watch Dan Mile on the floor of NAB, especially the first couple days. If you catch an interview when he was there on like the Monday, he is like amped up about his new launching products. And you can see it. You can hear it, the excitement, that authentic sound in his voice about, hey, I'm so excited to finally get to talk about this. That is way different than somebody just saying, yeah, well, we're really excited about this new feature. It's, we think it's going to be really, it's like, that's salesy. That sounds like sales. That sounds like you should be excited about it because of these features that I'm saying I'm excited about. Boring. But if you can see it, if you can see the energy coming off of the speaker, that's why public speakers are so engaging, because public speakers that are really good at it, I think, again, this is just a subjective opinion. All of this is. The whole stream is, by the way. Subjective opinion is engaging speakers are those who are in real time explaining to you something that they find important, and they can portray it to you in a engaging way. And so there's a big difference between professors who get up and read off their notes and tell you what all the things that you should know, and then there's somebody that like makes the text come alive. Even if you're watching it through a lens, you can see them making it come alive to their students, and that's really cool stuff. Hey, thanks, John. You said some stuff on stream today that exactly matches a report that I'm writing for the senior pastor today. So, hey, thanks for the inspiration. My pleasure. Sort of like the Holy Spirit alignment stuff. Yes, it's true. There are actually, I think, I don't know if I'd give the credit to Holy Spirit, or if it's just something that is needing to be said more often. We again, like I said, we've all sat in presentations, not even church world. We've all sat in classes and stuff that are just dry as ever. And it's more important that if you're going to do things live, if you're going to speak in an audience, for an audience, if you're going, it's important that you figure out, how can I say this that's engaging? And this whole thing about live streaming is another layer on top of it. It's not a switch. You don't turn on the live stream, okay? You create it. Guys that are really good at it, and again, I'm not saying it's me because you might find this incredibly dry, but guys who are really good at creating engaging content spend a lot of time thinking about how their content is going to be seen. What do you want in the background of your shot? Do you want your microphone on or off camera? Tom Sinclair is a legend, right? He's pretty much the GOAT of live streaming in the vMix era. His theory about microphones is different than mine. I think his content is engaging. I think my content is engaging. We do it differently. We have different opinions about how it should look. I still think that they both are good. Okay? So think about the way that your stream looks. Think about it's one of the reasons why I say don't do green screens, because they look corny. I did a whole segment back at Bird Dog about I was at a desk, I did a green background, and then I cropped myself out of it. Like I green screened it, and then I put myself at like a newscaster's desk, and I just laughed and laughed and laughed. I thought it was hilarious that I was sitting at a desk. Clearly, it looks like it's a desk from the space age, but like it's just not. It looks fake. It looks fake. And I think people see that, and I think people disengage. When it looks fake, I think people disengage. When you sound inauthentic, I think people disengage. When it sounds salesy, when it sounds manufactured, when it's not you, why am I tuning into your live stream if it's not you? You know, if I'm used to tuning in to a show where I get a vibe, where I feel like I'm connecting with this person because it's real. And a great example of this is when Anthony asked for people to call him on his show, he put like a QR code, and I called him from here, and he was in Fairbanks, Alaska, or Anchorage, or where was it? He did a live show, and he was testing out this like mobile option, and it was so cool. And both him and I had a very real conversation. He was standing in a park, probably freezing, standing in a park late last year, and we just chatted for 10 minutes. And then he was like, all right, man, I'm going to let you go. And it was like, that was the end of it. And it was an authentic conversation. We were able to talk to each other and like engage with one another as human beings. That was cool. That was really cool. Like engage with a streamer in real time. None of that was scripted. And when you move to that, it's like a marketing department putting out a pre-manufactured video. I'm watching it to see what I like. The commercial, for example, for the keyboard. I watched it to kind of get an impression of it, but I wasn't watching it because I was going to make a connection with this product. No, I was like, okay, let's see what the marketing department put out and what features they're going to put in the headlines. That's what I wanted to see. That's not a live stream. If they had put that up as a live stream, I would have been like, this isn't live. This is manufactured. And it defeats the purpose of what a live stream is. So be very intentional when you're going live. You know, I think people are actually really looking for authenticity in this world because so much of it is read from a script. Their politics are read from a script. Their news anchors are read from a script. Everything is pre-prepared. Everything is safe. Everything is passed by HR, you know, and everything is really boring to watch when that's happening. So be yourself out there, folks. Learn to live stream at a high level of excellence and be sure that you're live and you're authentic. And I think that the people will appreciate that on a level that they don't appreciate pre-manufactured sales pitches. So, all right, that's what I'm going to stop with. I hope you are well. Thank you so much for coming along for this ride. I have enjoyed being with you for a couple of hours. We'll plan to go next week. I'm going to air out my grievances with Reolink. You probably aren't going to want to miss that one because I've got some doozies, and I'm willing to listen to alternate opinions about Reolink. Angus, I will, if you're available, I'll rely on you to give me some feedback and maybe where my blind spots are maybe where my biases are, and I'm open to being to having my opinion changed. But next week we're going to talk about my security camera system out of Reolink and why I'm kind of done with it. But thank you so much, everybody, for coming along. Always appreciate you. And thanks for sticking around for a couple of hours. Take it easy, Randy. Always a pleasure. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Let's see if my automation button works. I don't think it will.